Hello everyone, I'm Lalit Singh. I welcome you all in this Android Development Fundamentals. In this course, you are going to learn about Android application development from very scratch. This particular slide deck contains the introduction to Android. This will tell you about Android ecosystem, the Android platform architecture, Android versions, challenges which we face in Android application development, and the basic building blocks of Android itself. First of all, let's just talk about what exactly is Android. Well, Android is operating system. You guessed it right. But is that all it is? It is actually a stack-based Linux kernel. Under the hood, there is a Linux kernel. What exactly is kernel? We all know. It acts as an interface between your hardware and your software. So here we are using Linux kernel, not Mac, not Windows, as Android is an open source environment or open source ecosystem. What are other things? Like you can have a cool user interface like touch screens, sensors, and we all know Android is covering more than 80% market right now when it comes to smartphones. And we have different ways to connect your Android now, not just at smartphones. We have cool Android watches, or we call it Android Wears, TVs, and Android Auto also in your cars and vehicles. And there are more than 2 million Android apps in the Google Apps Play Store now. The cool thing, the best thing which developers gonna like is Android is highly customizable. So if you have a particular device, you can mold your Android according to your own will. So when it comes to user interaction, what are the different user interaction? You can swipe, you can tap, you can pinch, zoom in, zoom out, and we have a virtual keyboard here, which gives you pretty much cool features like numbers, typing numbers, character, emojis, all those cool faces you see, you get it from your virtual keyboard, and support to high-tech hardwares like Bluetooth, USB controllers, Wi-Fi adapters and all. So all these things, all these cool things you can attach and you can work around with your Android device. So Android, when we talk about Android sensors and all, how exactly those sensors are connected? We have sensors like proximity sensors, accelerometer sensors. So all these sensors work. You must have seen when you rotate your device, in your games and all. When you rotate your device, your object, your player rotates. How exactly that is happening? Because there are sensors already placed inside your Android device, and your Android operating system help that device or help that sensor to connect with your own application. So we can position into a map on a particular location, and we can do the navigation, and we can even steer a virtual car or a toy. So all these things can be done with the help of your Android operating system. So when we talk about Android, we always see that home screen. Okay, that home screen is what? That home screen is itself an application which can actually contain other application, right? We see icons there, launcher icons, app, self-updating widgets are there, multiple pages are there. We even see that OK Google. So all these things are nothing but whatever you see on your screen your home screen itself is an application. And your home screen is known as an activity, which we are going to discuss in further chapters, what exactly an activity. But for now, understand that the screen itself is actually a part of your application itself. If I have to give you some examples, you must have came across these pretty famous applications: Pandora, a great music player, and Pokemon Go, which is in a great hype right now, right? And Facebook Messenger. So you can build all these cool apps once you learn about how exactly or the basic mechanism of Android itself. So you can build all these apps. So what exactly or how exactly you are going to develop your Android applications? To do that, you need Android SDK. Android SDK is known as Software Development Kit. This is specifically for Android application developers, and for that, the prerequisite are Java. We are going to go through all the prerequisite which you need for that in a bit. But as of right now, let me tell you what exactly are the different tools which you will be getting here. You will be getting development tools like debugger, monitors, editors. There will be libraries here, libraries for your variables, maps, and there will be the documentation. If you need any help, we have the documentation, everything charted down in your developers.android.com, and there will be sample codes also. And the best thing or cool thing about when we are developing Android application development is you get emulators, virtual device. So you don't even need to get a real device for the testing purpose. You get a virtual device. Anything you want to develop, any application you develop, you can test it in your virtual device, which will give you exactly the feel of a real device. So when we talk about Android Studio, this is how your Android Studio looks like. Most of you are already familiar with Eclipse or any other IDE, so there is not much change. But when we install our Android Studio and when we get to that Android Studio IDE, we will talk more about it. But let me tell you what exactly Android Studio beforehand provides you. It provides you an environment where you can develop. It provides you with your running features and debugging your app, right? Testing and all the packages inbuilt. You can monitor your performance. You can monitor your memory usage and all those things, and the virtual device itself, which I just talked about. All those emulators, whether it is running in Android 6.0 or 5.0, you can get them and with the help of your Android device. You have different views, or if I should call it, we call it project hierarchy also. So you can always go through different ways of viewing your whole project. So we will go through that also when we see the whole Android Studio in action. And we have a visual editor. So you don't have to worry about, do I need to learn the coding specifically for designing a UI? No, that has been taken care for you by visual editor, or you can say the visual layout editor. So you just have to drag and drop. You need to know what you really want to design, and that's it. There are views for you. There are layouts for you. You just have to drag and drop. So this is Google Play Store. So like I said, there you need to create an account which worth $25 lifetime, which will give you access of official Play Store, or you can say a market where you can publish your app. And Google Play Store is an official market where you can publish all your apps, and it will be provided all over the world. People can see, right? And that's where you will be publishing all your application. See, there are ways you can get this application to the people by providing them with mail and providing them with USB drives and all, but it won't cover the whole market. So we have this market here specifically for publishing your app all over at the majority or large scale. So before we get more into Android, we need to know what exactly or how exactly your Android has been, what is the internal structure or the architecture of Android. Let's just understand what exactly Android looks like from inside. If you remember, I told you in the starting only, Android is a stack-based operating system. So what did I meant by that? So stack-based means it is layer upon layer. So the stacks are the layers are stacked like layer upon layer. So when we talk about stack-based, at the very bottom we have Linux kernel, then we have HAL, hardware abstraction layer, then above that we have a layer which contains two things, that is native C and C++ library and Android runtime, and then we have Java API framework, and above that we have system apps or user apps. So let's just go through with them each one of them very briefly. So see here, when we talk about system apps or user apps, these are the apps which comes with your application inbuilt. System apps are inbuilt application, like your call application, your SMS application, or your Google Chrome application, right? So all those apps which comes within your device when you purchase your device for the very first time, those are known as system apps. User apps, which you install separately from your Google Play Store. For example, WhatsApp, for example, Facebook, for example, any game, which you are installing from your Google Play Store, or you can develop your own app and install it in your device also. So those are known as user apps. Good. So next is Java API framework. So this is the API which we Android developers will be working vigorously, because all the APIs which we need for our application development is inside this Java API framework. This is also known as Android SDK. So all those developers which work in this layer are also known as SDK developers, Android SDK developers. So if you want to design an application, you will make use of all these classes. So we have view classes here for designing your layouts in Android. Any UI you see, any layout of any application you see, it has been designed from this particular API. You have notification manager. All the notification which you see, all cool notification when you while you are using your social applications and all, they are being designed from this API only. Your activity manager, all the screens itself are being designed from this. Content providers, sharing of data, again from this. So there are a lot more classes which are there in Java API, and we are going to make use of all these classes when we go and start making our applications. Okay, next is our Android runtime. What exactly is Android runtime? Well, this is where all our application runs, right? So inside your Android runtime, there are compilers like DVM or ART. Well, all the new devices now use ART. Before Android 4.4, we used to have DVM, but ART was introduced in 4.4, and now all the higher version you will see, Android 7.0, 6.0, they are using ART. Right, so we will talk about ART also when we get into our actual difference between your Gradle build system and Eclipse build system. So just know for now, Android runtime is the place where all your application come and run. C and C++ library are also known as native libraries. This is the section where all your system libraries are being placed, and they are written in C and C++. Now, we have developers for this particular libraries also, but they are known as NDK developers, Android NDK developers, known as native development kit developers. Now, as for this course, we will be working on SDK developers, but there are developers which work on directly C and C++. Now, what exactly the C and C++ library contain? This will contain all your high-end libraries like graphic libraries, OpenGL, your secured socket layer, SSL, and your WebKit OS. So all those libraries which are very hard to write in your Java and easy to write in C and C++, you will be using inside C and C++ or native library section. Next is hardware abstraction layer. Now this layer has been particularly written or particularly charted down to access your hardware from your application itself. So there are predefined methods which are there to use, or which are provided to you to access. For example, if you want to use camera application, or if you want to open up a camera or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, there is already hardware abstraction layer methods, predefined methods which are defined in hardware abstraction layer. You just have to use those methods in your application, and you will get the access of your camera. So next is our Linux kernel. Now, Linux kernel acts as any kernel which you see in any other operating system. It handles your threading, it handles all your low-level memory management, it handles your resource management, it handles all your security features, and it also includes the drivers. Like if somebody wants to call camera application, he has to first go to HAL, like we discussed. Then HAL will in turn go to the drivers which are written in your Linux kernel, which are there in your Linux kernel, and it will give you the access of your actual camera hardware. So and the Linux kernel has the supreme right in Android application development. For example, let's say if you see whenever you see that there is your application is getting stuck, or application is not responding, you must have seen you must have seen a dialog box appearing up right away, and it is saying application not responding. So who is actually popping up that dialog box is actually Linux kernel. At any point of time, Linux kernel sees that your any application is taking too much resources and is not allowing any other application to run freely. So Linux kernel have the right to kill that application. Of course, it will ask you in the starting that this particular application is taking this much space or this much memory, and if you want to wait for this application to respond or not. But if it really goes, if the memory really goes out of if that application takes too much memory and it really goes out of the memory, and then your Linux kernel has the right to restart your device itself. So next, you see all these cool Android versions. Well, Android starts from Android 1.0, but all these fun versions you can see all the here that which have code names. The latest one you see is Nugget, and there is a very interesting thing here which we will see, that each code name or each Android version name start with an alphabetical order: H, I, J. So and each code name is a desert name. And the one more thing which I really want to discuss here is API level. So each version is working on a particular API level, and API level are application programming interfaces. So there are a set of classes which are being provided at each Android version, which you will be using to develop your Android application at that particular or for that particular version. Like if I want to develop an application for KitKat, I will be using the API 19 to 20. And if I'm developing for my latest version, so it will be API level 24. Well, when I want to develop an application, I really want to keep this in mind, that there is always a maximum level of API, that is the latest one, so that all the new users can make use of my application. Plus, I also want to set a minimum version of Android, so that even the users who doesn't have the latest API right now or version right now in their device, they can also still use it. Right. So we will talk about it more when we start making our application. We will set a minimum version there, and we will set a maximum version there, and you will see that in your application itself. Now, how exactly application development goes here? Well, first thing first, Android is not just one screen. There are so many screens which you see. You click on one screen, you get to next screen. So we will see all those, how exactly we how exactly we design one screen, how exactly we go to next screen. But what exactly we use under the hood? We use Java programming. That's right, Java programming plus XML. But don't worry about XML. We don't have to be an expert on XML, but yeah, you do need to know how exactly we use XML to design our layouts. So now there will be a complete go through for this XML part also when we will be doing our UI design. And of course, you will be needing your Android SDK, that is your software development kit, and the Android libraries. Now these libraries gives you some extra feature which you are not having as of right now in your SDK. So this particular libraries will give you for example, the material design. Material design is the newest addition in your Android 5.0, and if you want to make use of your material design in the versions below your 5.0, you won't have the access. For that purpose, we have Android libraries, or to be more precise, we have app compact libraries for that, which will give you the access of that particular material design feature even in your lower versions. So we will talk more about it when we get into the development part. And we have an Android runtime virtual machine here, or you can say ART, which has been, your runtime machine is executed at their ART, which will be very helpful when you are running or testing your application. So what are the challenges you face when you are doing your application development? Well, most of it, you are going to face that you are designing for a particular screen, and that UI is whatever you have designed for that particular screen is not looking the same in that different screen resolution or different screen size. So we have a way to fix that also. And the performance. Most of the time, if your app is using all those classes which are using extensive use of graphics, networking, and internet and all, there might be a chance that your application is taking long to open, especially in the case where your device is not high-tech device, your processor of the device is not that much powerful. So you will face the challenge at the performance level also. So you can always rectify those performance errors, and you can make your application faster. That also you will see in best practices of performance. Security, you can always keep more security or encrypt your application whenever with the ProGuard files which you have in your Gradle in your Android application development, now in your application itself. So you can always make your application more secure with your ProGuard files. Compatibility. Now that's an issue or challenge which you will be facing a lot. That's because you will be targeting for a particular version. You will be targeting a majority of people. That's what our aim is, so that whenever we develop an application that can be used by a majority of people. But we cannot expect our application to run in each and every version. Like let's say I want to create an application which will run in 2.3 also. But if I'm going all the way down to 2.3, I might have to sacrifice with many features which I really want to add in my Android application development, which will give a real look and feel to my Android application development. But that's not going to happen because you are going all the way down to your older version of 2.3. So we have to make a balance here. We have to target, or we have to put a minimum Android version for our application development, so that I can cover majority of people. So for example, right now, most of the people over the world, you can see that they are at least using ice cream sandwich. There will be very less percentage of people who will be using 2.3. So we are going to skip that particular mob, and we are going to target our application development to 4.0 and above. So this will give us a complete majority of people which we really want to target. Next, marketing. Now, marketing, of course, it totally it's upon your it's upon you that how exactly you want to market. Marketing can be expensive if you want to put that all the advertisement all over the place. It can be expensive also, but it can be cheap also. I mean, you can just add ad mobs. There are libraries for that also. You can add those, but it all depends upon how well you want to market your application. So those are few challenges which you will be facing when you will be creating any application. So we will address those challenges also. So when we talk about Android building blocks, so what are those building blocks? Android is not all about Java. I mean, Java is one thing you will be doing. You will be putting all the functionality with the coding part as a Java language. But it's not all about Java. There are UIs, there is layouts, there are images, there are XML files. So all these things are known as resources. So resources will be there along the way to help you out to design your application. Plus there will be components, activities, services, helper classes, model classes, and the manifest file. Now, manifest file is one of the most important file in your Android application development. It is the very first file which your Android device sees whenever you download an application. It gives you the information about your application itself, what your application contains, how many screens it contains, what are the services it contains. So all the information is being written in your manifest file. It's kind of a configuration file which you see in your any other application. The next thing which you really want to look at is your APK. Now this is the end product which you get whenever you are done with your application development. So this APK file is the one which you will be uploading to your Google Play Store, and this is the file which everyone out there will be downloading, and this is your application as the whole. So next, components of Android. Now whatever you see, all those applications out there, they are built with these 4 components only. Nothing is outside these components in the Android. So first is activity. What is an activity? Activity is anything which you see on your screen. Even your lock screen is an activity. Your home application you see the very first home screen is an activity. So anything which you can see on your screen and a user can interact with it is an activity. Services. Services doesn't have UI, unlike your activity. They run in the background. For example, your music player. You play your music and your music start playing, and now you can switch to other applications, and still your music is playing in the background. So where exactly your music is being played? In the service. So a service doesn't need a UI, unlike your activity. So it runs in the background. Content provider. In Android, two applications cannot share data because of the Linux kernel, which provides you a sandbox model under the hood. So how can you do that? How can you share the data? Well, that's when content provider comes in. Content providers are the mechanism, or you can say classes, which help you share data between two applications. Broadcast receivers. Broadcast receivers are the classes which listens for a particular set of messages. For example, if somebody sends you a message over WhatsApp or any other application, now there will be a broadcast receiver contained in that application who will listen for that particular message. Well, the message is being transmitted to the entire device, but only WhatsApp application is the one who will pick that up, but other applications broadcast receiver will ignore that particular message. So you can think Android as a hotel. Your app is your guest. Your Android system is your hotel manager. Now there are certain services which you request. You can invoke them with the help of intents, which we are going to go through in further slides. Now there are services which requires your presence. For example, let's say you want to register for your hotel registration. So that requires your presence. So that's what an activity is, like your UI. Or there are services which doesn't require your presence. For example, laundry. So that you can compare with your services. Now you get a call that your package has arrived. Now you can compare with your broadcast receiver, and you get the access of the city map. All these access which you are getting, you can correlate with the content providers. Here are the few more links to give you extra information regarding whatever we have covered. We're gonna go more deeper together in further slides. So next, we're going to cover introduction to development in the Android.